Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I think this is one of the first videos. I don't know if it will be the first video I put out in 2026, but it's one of the first that will go up in 2026. And in this video I'm going to be talking about the 26 books I want to read in 2026. Now, I'm literally just doing this video for fun to help you guys kind of understand my reading taste as well, because all of the books I'm going through a lot of them are genuinely like fantasy, but there's also romance and stuff in there. But I just wanted to make this video for fun. If I read all of them in 2026, great. If I don't get around to them, also great. It's just for fun and entertainment, and that's it. I'm not pressuring myself to read all 26 of these books. I have the list on my laptop here. I also have little summaries of the synopsis of each of, well, not each of them, but a lot of the books that I'm gonna read. The reason I've done a summary of it is because I want to give as little spoilers as I can to you guys, and also to myself, because I kind of like going in a little bit blind, especially if it's a thriller or a mystery, because I feel sometimes the synopsis might give a little bit too much away and then I'm not as shocked by the storyline. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Book one on my list is Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. I've seen this book literally everywhere, all over my TikTok, same as the series, but I want to read the book before I watch the series. If you're not aware, this book is a hockey romance of two hockey players. Both main characters in this book are male. It is an MM romance book, and they're essentially rivals from different teams, and they get together through this whole journey. It's book two in the actual romance series it's in, which I've not read book one of, and if Heated Rivalry is good, I will go back and read book one and then the rest of the series. I can't remember what the series is called, but I know either book one or book three is The Long Game and Game Changers. But I just really want to see it. I want to see if it lives up to the reputation, if it is actually as good as people say it is. And I love a good sports romance, especially a hockey romance, so make it two hockey players that are rivals, that's kind of like enemies to lovers. I'm there for it. Book two and three are part of the same series, and it's The Kill Order and The Fever Code, both by James Dashner. I actually have these in physical copies over there on my bookshelf, and they are books 4 and 5 in the Maze Runner series. I know for sure that The Kill Order is kind of the prelogue before any of the Maze Runner happened, but I'm not sure if The Fever Code is also pre or if it's like post. And I did read The Maze Runner last year, or maybe even the year before, but I read obviously The Maze Runner, Scorched Trials and The Death Cure, and I loved all of them. I think all of them were 5 stars, or at least 4.5. I really enjoyed them, so I wanted to complete that series, and I hope I do get around to that. I do have a reading vlog somewhere of me reading them, and it has not been uploaded. I will get around to uploading it. It just takes a little while, as some of you guys know. But book 4 is The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. This one is a YA fantasy, so young adult fantasy romance, and it follows Ivy Benton, who lives in a world where people can make dangerous magical bargains with powerful fae queen. And her reputation, her family's reputation is kind of ruined or tainted because of a failed bargain her sister made with this Fae Queen. And so Ivy joins this competition to win the hand of the Fae Prince, and it follows that kind of romance and fantasy world. And I've seen this not so much on social media, but I have seen a few booktubers and book talkers that I follow have said that this is on their TBR, or that they've read it and they really enjoyed it. So I wanted to add it to my TBR, or books I wanted to read in 2026, because it does sound like it is right up my alley. Book 5 is one that has been on TBR lists pretty much since it came out, and it is Diabound by Sable Sorensen. And I know that this is book 1 in either a series or a duology. I think it's a duology, and the duology is, I believe, just called Diabound. And this is essentially a dark romance set in a worn-torn world with elite, powerful warriors that have bonds with direwolves. And our main character's little sister is taken. So in order to save her, she makes this like deal or bond with a direwolf, and it follows that whole story. And I love a fantasy. I love any storyline like this. I don't think I've actually read a fantasy where it's wolf is like the magical creature in it. I've read one with magical powers, with fae, with vampires, but I've not gone into the wolf world of fantasy, so I'm very excited to read this one. The next one is one I'm hoping to get around to very soon, because I did start it towards the end of 2025, but I kind of softy DNF'd it because I was in a reading slump, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I was conflicted on when I went to the bookstore on whether to buy this or not, but the clerk that worked there said that she's read it and she really enjoyed it, so I did want to I trusted her. I took her word for it, and because I got a hardback cover of it, and I don't know if it's a special edition, but it has like pictures in the front and in the middle and stuff. Essentially it's a fantasy romance, and it follows our main character Addie LaRue, who is an 18th century French woman, and she makes a desperate bargain with these like gods of the night, kind of, essentially. And then her bargain that she makes is that she will live forever. So she has to learn to survive through different centuries, different decades, to adapt to the modern world. And also, along with that, she's deeply struggling with loneliness and the cost of this deal that she made. I got a few chapters in and I did really enjoy it, and I'm annotating it, which is why it's taken me longer to read it. And as I said, I soft DNF'd it, and that doesn't mean that it wasn't good, because it was. It had me hooked. I just was not in the mood to be reading at that point. Book 7 is another wolf fantasy romance book. Like I said, I've read a bunch of different types of fantasies and with a bunch of different fantasy creatures, but I've never explored the wolf world of fantasy, so I really wanted to get into that because I've almost finished the Crowns of Nyxia series, and that is a vampire fantasy romance series, so I thought, what's the opposite of that? I know, wolves. So I added quite a few wolf fantasy romances to this list, and this is The Wolf King by Lauren Palfreyman, and it follows Princess Aurora, who feels trapped by her royal duties and arranged marriage. Literally the night before of her wedding, she shows mercy to a captive wolf, catching the attention of Callum, the alpha wolf of the pack. I'm assuming it's like Teen Wolf-esque, whereas you have the alpha and then the betas and everything. So she caught the alpha's attention, and when Callum, who is the alpha, escapes, he takes Aurora with him into the Northlands, and it essentially throws her into this world of werewolf clans, and she has to navigate her loyalties and feelings that are really complicated, and just everything that is right up my alley for a fantasy read. Book 8 is one I found kind of weirdly. I haven't seen it pretty much anywhere or anyone talk about it, but I was searching the internet for sites where I can buy special editions here in Spain, and I'm yet to find any. But when I was scrolling through special editions on Owl City, or I can't even remember the page, but this book popped up and I loved the cover of it. It was very like Roman Empire goddess type imagery and artwork on the cover. So I got intrigued and I clicked on it, and this book is Fallen City by Adrian Young, and it's a fantasy romance, but it also has very much political interest. And something I learned last year through the few books that I read, but the few that I read were really, really good, is I love a fantasy or any type of book that has some type of political link or interest or intrigue. I don't know why, I just really enjoy reading that type of thing. Like Maze Runner, Crimes of Nixia has some political references and interests in there. So did A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I read. So I just really enjoyed it. And this book is set in the city of Isara, where long buried tensions finally explode into full-scale rebellion. The story follows two characters from two very different paths. The main male character, Luca Matthias, a legionnaire, bound to his family's legacy and pulled into forces beyond his control. And I believe our female main character, Maris Casperia, the magistrate's daughter, whose life of political privilege has made her question everything she's been raised to uphold. When a secret ignites long smouldering unrest, the city teeters on the brink of collapse. Luca and Maris find their lives intertwined, not just by fate, but by forbidden love that could either heal or destroy their world. And I just thought that was such an interesting take, and I don't think I've ever read a book quite like that before. So I'm excited to see what my actual opinion is after I've read it. Book 9 is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. This is another book that has been on various TBRs for like such a long time for me. And the reason for that is it's essentially a modernized fantasy romance of Peter Pan. And I loved Peter Pan growing up, so I thought this would be such a fun thing to read. I do believe it's a series. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know if it is a series, it's book 1 in whatever it is. And like I said, it's Peter Pan inspired, but it's a romance about revenge, obsession and power. It follows James, who's known as Hook, who is a ruthless crime boss that becomes fixated on Wendy. And there you kind of have Captain Hook and Wendy. And Wendy is the daughter of the person that Hook blames for ruining his life, and it starts with a revenge plan of Hook essentially kind of using Wendy as part of this revenge, and then they obviously confront each other and stuff happens. I'm so excited to see what that is. If it is a series, I'm excited to explore the whole series, depending on if I like the first book or not, but I've also heard lots of good things about it, so I'm excited to read it. Book 10 is Face Off by Chelsea Curto, which is another sports romance series. The series is DC Stars. I believe it's a hockey romance series, and I also think, unless I'm obviously wrong, it's similar to the Windy City series, where they're standalone books that are all interconnected. But unlike Windy City series, which follows a friend group that are in different sports, this one follows an NHL team roster of the DC Stars. Book 1, which is Face Off, is a sports romance about Emerson Hartwell, who's known as Emmy, a professional hockey player who finally earns her spot on this team, the DC Stars. And it's a team that's been struggling, but she's always dreamed of playing there. Within this, she meets Maverick Miller, the team's star captain and notorious playboy. Though they clash at first, like they don't get along, their connection grows into a one-night thing. But obviously it spirals, there's more tension, there's more chemistry, and then they have to navigate how this is going to work with the same team. Feelings, do they want to accept them, do they not? Love a sports romance, I'm there for it. I'm so excited. I don't think I've read one where a female hockey player is a main character. I've obviously read a couple where there's figure skaters, or there's someone on the team that they fall for, as in not team of the actual sports team, but like behind the teams of like medics and like, I don't know, other staff members. So I'm excited to see what happens there. Book 11 is Alchemized. This, along with a couple other books, have been on my radar from TikTok and YouTube and the people I follow. This one specifically, I've had my eye on kind of since it came out, and it's a dark fantasy romance set in Palladium, I want to say is how you pronounce it. And the story follows Helena Marino, a former alchemist and resistance healer who has been captured after a devastating civil war. She wakes with no memory of her past and finds herself powerless and imprisoned under the control of new ruling class filled with necromancers and corrupt guilds, and she's forced to confront her missing memories and unravel the truth about her life. Helena must navigate danger, magic, and shadows of her own identity. Now, this one seems almost slightly similar, I want to say, to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I know that it says dark fantasy romance, but there's currently no hint of who she falls for. So I'm excited to jump into that and see who it is she falls for, and also just see her journey. I do think they're going to be very similar. I know Alchemized is a bit of a thicker book. I'm not sure how many pages it is, but at least the like hardback copies I've seen look very thick. So I might take my time with that one. I also know a lot of people that have read it have chosen to annotate it, which typically means it's pretty good. Book 12 is Light Lark by Alex Astor. There are a lot of books that have or could have made this list by Alex Astor, but I chose Light Lark because I've seen it everywhere. It's been on my radar for a while, and I think it will be a good way to test out if I enjoy Alex Astor's writing. And I also did it because it's in a genre that I know I'm inclined to enjoy, which is YA, so young adult fantasy adventure, and it is about Isla Crown, or Isla Crown. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I am probably butchering so many names in here. And she is the young ruler of the Wildering realm, a land cursed so its people cannot love without deadly consequences. Every 100 years, the mysterious island of Light Lark appears, hosting a centennial, a high stakes competition where the rulers of 6 cursed realms gather to break their people's ancient afflictions. Only one can win, and the path to victory is full of alliances, secrets, betrayal, and danger. And so Isla goes in to fight to save her people, and she must navigate the deadly games, shifting loyalties, and complicated relationships that blur the line between friend and foe. I don't know what it is, but at least in movies and series, as well as some books I've read, I love a fantasy series that has a competition type thing. So I do think I will enjoy this quite a lot. Book 13 is Vows Forged in Blood by K.D. Miller, and it's a fantasy romance. Again, I think a lot of the books in this list are fantasy romance, and like, sue me, I just really enjoy a good fantasy romance. And this one, I'm going back to my roots, okay, where I started in fantasy, which is vampire fantasy. I think the first fantasy book I actually fully read when I got back into reading was Crowns of Nixia, which is vampire. And this one is a vampire, politics, and ancient traditions fantasy world. All of the things I love in a fantasy. So I already know I'm probably going to eat this up so much. It follows Dahlia Claiborne, a blacksmith's daughter unexpectedly thrust into nobility. And she's selected as a consort to Prince Alaric Montclair. Now, let me just say, the name Alaric, I don't enjoy it too much just because of the Vampire Diaries. His character, I did not like. I don't care. I do not care. I did not like Alaric. And the actor, even worse. Like, even worse. So I am going to need to clear my mind of that when I'm reading this, because I see the name Alaric and it just like gives me the ick. I cringe. But anyway, he is a hardened warlord who never wanted the ritual or the bond that it creates. Forced to leave her old life behind, Dahlia must adapt to life in a vampire war camp on the northern frontier while navigating the intense attraction and deepening connection between her and Alaric, a bond neither of them wanted but cannot ignore. Like I said, I'm probably going to eat this up. I don't really know what else I can say. Book 14 is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. This, who would have guessed, another romantasy. But this is about Sarah Sfain, a resourceful thief living in a harsh desert world who possesses rare alchemical abilities tied to a mysterious substance called Quicksilver. When her life is upended after a forbidden act, she is drawn into a Fey realm ruled by icy kingdoms and ancient magic. There, she meets Kingfisher, a stoic Fey warrior, and their relationship, initially tense and distrustful, gradually develops and amid political intrigue, dangerous magic, and looming war. All the elements I love. I've seen Quicksilver everywhere. I've seen Callie Hart herself, the author, her books everywhere. I know loads of people enjoy them. I know this had quite a lot of very, very, very good reviews by people I have very similar taste to. So I know I'm really going to enjoy it. I also apologise for the mistakes in me reading. I don't have my glasses on right now and my laptop's over there, so it's a little bit of a struggle, but we're getting there. Along similar lines, I guess, and by that I mean romantasy, but this is a dark romantasy, and it's Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. Now the reason this is on my list is because I gave my Kindle to my sister a little bit ago and gave her the opportunity to add like 3 to 5 books just to fill up what I had available on my Kindle, and one of the books she chose was Phantasma, and this is by Kaylee Smith. I am planning on doing a video reading those books that she picked on my Kindle, so stay tuned to that, but that's why I've put it on this list, because I do want to get around to that. Now Phantasma, like I said, dark romantasy that follows Ophelia Grimm, the fate of Ophelia. It just makes me think of Taylor Swift now, and it should not, but it does. And she's a young necromancer who enters a deadly magical competition called Phantasma to save her missing sister. The contest, set within a cursed mansion filled with shifting dangers and trials, offers the winner a single wish, but most participants never survive. Along the way, Ophelia forms a tense and dangerous alliance with Blackwell, a mysterious phantom who claims he can help her survive if she makes a sleep bargain. As they navigate life-threatening challenges and creeping supernatural threats, their connection becomes impossible to ignore, despite the rules and the risks. Like I said, I love a fantasy that has some type of competition or anything like that people have to survive. I think it is such a nice, like, fun storyline to write. I'm not sure, because I have so many books on here with that kind of plot, that it might get a little bit repetitive throughout the year. I'm not 100% sure, but we shall see. Now the next one, I'll preface and say, is 3 books, but I'm counting it as 1 because it's a reread of a series. Now this series is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. This I started way after all of the hype was around. I read Fourth Wing and Iron Flame right around the time that Onyx Storm came out. Like, I had not heard of the Empyrean series somehow. I don't know how. I was living under a rock, but I had not heard of it until Onyx Storm came out and all of the hype and stuff around that. Now, it could be because I wasn't super back into fully reading and all of this type of stuff when Fourth Wing and Iron Flame came out. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know it's going to be at least a 5-book series, and that book 4 will be coming at some point. This is also a 5-star, well, probably like a 5 million star series for me. I have tried for months to get my sister to read Fourth Wing, but she's a slow reader. She also has lots going on at college and everything, so she hasn't had the time to even finish the first book, but I'm working on it. I will get round to her finishing this whole series, but I wanted to reread it to see if my opinion upholds, and it's still like a 5 million top tier go to war for book for me. Well, books, because there's 3, but that's why I've counted it as 1 of the 26, because it's a reread. So I don't know, I think I can get away with that. Number 17, we're literally not even 10 books away now from all 26. Now, this one is one I looked up, well, I didn't look it up, but came up for me on recommended on Goodreads, and it also was on a list of anticipated reads for 2025 in my like Vlogmas from 2024, and I believe it was released at the beginning of 2025. I just never got round to it, but it does seem like such an interesting story to me. And if none of you know, I love like Asian culture and traditions, and I haven't read manga, and I haven't read, I don't think, a book that taps into any type of Asian culture, but I love cooking Asian food, I love K-pop, I love K-dramas, so I think I will love this book. And it is Water Moon by Samantha Soto Yambao, and it follows Hana Ishikawa, and I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. And she's a young woman who suddenly inherits her family's mystical pawn shop tucked behind a Tokyo ramen restaurant, a place where lost souls can trade away their deepest regrets and life choices. On her very first day in charge, she wakes to find the shop ransacked, its most precious item gone, and her father mysteriously missing. When a curious stranger enters, offering help, Hana is pulled into a dream-like magical journey through surreal landscapes and hidden realms to recover what was stolen and find her father. Along the way, she must face secrets from her own past and confront a choice that could change her life forever. Books 18 and 19 I am putting together because they're 2 books to complete a like trilogy, which is Once Upon a Broken Heart, the second and third book that follow that, which is The Ballad of Never After and A Curse for True Love. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart in 2025, and it had been on my list for a very long time, but I didn't have a physical copy and I never got around to reading it on the Kindle. But my sister went away to Manchester for like I don't want to say a week, I think it was less than a week, but she brought me back some books, and one of them was Once Upon a Broken Heart. I read it, 5-star, immediately, loved it. I can't remember if I annotated it or not. I know I annotated one of the books she got me, which was either that one or Daisy Jones and the Six, and I immediately knew I just had to finish this series, so I want to get round to finishing that series now. And that's also a very big theme for 2026 to me, is completing series that I'm like in the middle of or have read certain books of. I just want to finish them and have like the collection there. On the topic of completing series, this is the second book in a duology to a book I read, I think I read it in 2024. And I posted about it on my story, and the author like responded to the story, which I thought was so cool. And book one, similar to Once Upon a Broken Heart, was a 5-star read for me immediately. Book one is The Way I Used to Be, and book two is The Way I Am Now. Book one, if you've not read it, this is one I can tell you for sure, read the trigger warnings for it. The other ones I can't tell you for sure, but I still would just in case. The Way I Am Now follows this girl called Eden, and it tells the story of basically just the person she used to be before this life-changing, sad, complicated things start happening. And it really shows you the weight that she carries throughout the years, and every single moment that passes of stuff that's happened to her. Book 1 follows her in high school and is very much dark and has a lot of topics of like anger, guilt, like deep depression and sadness, and silence. Like, she is silent about everything that she has suffered and gone through. And then it kind of ends with right on where this next book is going to pick up, which is The Way I Am Now, which is kind of, I assume, the healing process of book 1. And I just think it was so beautifully written, and the topics in it were really dark and really hard to write about, but the way that Amber Smith wrote about them was so descriptive and beautiful, and just encapsulated every single emotion that's so difficult to encapsulate and to capture in writing and make it so real. And it was immediately, like, I finished it, I was crying. It was immediately a 5-star for me, and I'm just excited to see where book 2 and the final book, because it's a duology, ends, and like the journey it takes us on to the ending. Number 21 on this list of 26 books is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Now, I found this book, well, it's a series called The Naturals, but book 1 is just The Naturals. I found this book when I was looking into like books for people who love criminal minds and that love crime programs and true crime, and this book came up on every single list. And it follows Cassie Hobbs, who is a teenager that has this like inexplicable, incredible talent of reading people, and she gets recruited by the FBI, and this kind of like program that they made for really gifted like teenagers who can help profile cold cases. And while she's training with this group of people and learning how to like really go into the minds of criminals and like bad people, she finds this, well, she doesn't find, but she gets involved with this case, and it's an active case, so it's no longer a cold case, it's an active one that really hits close to home. And the team that she's working with get pulled into this dangerous hunt for this criminal, and Cassie has to confront the limits and trials and tribulations of her abilities that she has, and how far she's willing to go to catch a criminal or a killer. And I love it. I am a big crime fan, like junkie. I love Criminal Minds, White Collar, FBI. The Blacklist is one I've recently gotten into. I also love true crime documentaries. I love anything of that world. I love psychological elements of programs. I just love it so much. So it's been on my radar for a while, and I'm so glad it's one I'm really planning to get round to. I didn't put these in any type of order whatsoever. They're just in a list, but I'm so excited to see how basically all of that stuff I love in shows will compare to how it's written on paper. Books 22, 23 and 24 on this list are similar to the Once Upon a Broken Heart. They're all part of the same series. The series being ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I mentioned earlier that I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, like the first book, last year in 2025. And it was a pretty high rated book for me. It was like 4.25 or 4.5 stars. I did have to try and start it like 3 times because the beginning just felt very slow, but it did pick up quickly. And with where they left A Court of Thorns and Roses off, I knew I wanted to read the rest of the series by Sarah J Maas, being in the order of A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, and then A Court of Silver Flames. I do believe there's like a novella in between books 4 and 5, or 3 and 4. I'm not sure. But if you have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, it is a fantasy romance series that follows Feyre. I never know how to pronounce her name, but it's written Feyre. And she is a human mortal huntress from this poor family that kills this wolf in the woods and taken to the fairylands as punishment. And she becomes, in that land, bound to a fae, one of the fairies, called Tamlin. And he is a powerful fae lord. Now, obviously there's fae and then there's fae lords, so he's above the average ranking. He's very powerful, he's a lord. And within being bound to him, she discovers this world of magic, politics, ancient curses, and just danger, basically. And as Feyre and Tamlin grow closer, she is drawn into a dark conflict threatening both of the realms, both her mortal human realm and the Fae realm, and she must decide what she's essentially willing to do to save them, both the Fae and the mortal world. And I love it. Book 25 on the list, and I've put this as a singular book. I know it's a series, I'm aware it's a series, it's a very loved series by many, and I hope I don't offend anyone with the next sentence I say, but I have never read The Hunger Games, and I have never seen The Hunger Games, like, movies at all. I've not seen any of them, but I know it's, again, a fantasy, like, political type of storyline, and I know I love that, and I do want to watch the films, but I want to read the books first. So book 25 on the list is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. It's book 1. I'm going to test if I like it. I think book 1 might be To Kill a Mockingjay. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but I will look into it. I feel like everyone on planet Earth knows what The Hunger Games is about, so I'm not going to explain that, and I'm not going to go into that any further. But we have arrived at the final book on the list, and this again is book 1 in a very loved series by many people. I personally discovered the existence of this series by one of my favourite book content creators called Larry Reads. I know she has her own covers for these books, and it is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I do know this, similar to The Way I Used to Be, has dark topics throughout the entire series, so definitely look up trigger warnings and the topics that are spoken about. But Binding 13 is a series about an Irish high school, like the series itself, but book 1 is a high school romance about Shannon Lynch, a quiet girl starting over at a new school after years of bullying, and Johnny Kavanagh, I want to say, I could be mispronouncing that, who is the school's star rugby player with the world's expectations on his shoulders, as Shannon tries to rebuild her confidence and Johnny wrestles with pressure, fame and family responsibilities. The two form this unexpected connection, and it follows that story. And then I believe their friend group or other students at the school are then in other books throughout the series. I think, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of them are, or at least the male main characters are on the rugby team. I could be wrong. I think that's why there's like 13 on some of them and 7 on the other. They different people, like redeeming, is it redeeming 10 or 7? Taking 7 is about the player who wears the number 7, and then binding 13 is about the one who wears the number 13, which is obviously Johnny. I'm not sure. I'll obviously find out when I read it. But that kind of finalises all of the 26 books I want to read in 2026. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!